Here's what nobody tells you before your first night in a camping hammock. Even on a warm summer night in the 60s, the air pulls the heat straight out of your back through the fabric, and you wake up freezing at 3 a.m. The hammock you bought to fix that? Half of them are loungers wearing a camping costume. A real camping hammock is three things: the hardware that actually holds you, not the big fabric number, the length to lie diagonal and sleep flat, and an insulation and bug setup so you don't freeze or get eaten. The money wasters sell you everything but those three. So here are 5 camping hammock brands wasting your money, worst 2 first, then 2 worth it, plus 4 checks that expose a lounger in disguise in 10 seconds. And fair warning, the #1 money waster is a famous brand many of you know and overpay to camp in. And the top worth it pick gives you the whole system in one box for less. In the 5th place, those $30 Amazon all-in-one kits promise a complete wilderness shelter in a single click. They lure you in with a box full of weak parts, from thin ropes to a leaky tarp. But you quickly realize you bought a pile of headache, not a sleep system. The hammock itself is under 9 feet, forcing you into a banana shape. The rope suspension slips down the trunk, chewing up bark because it lacks proper wide webbing. When it rains, the thin tarp leaks and the cramped net snags on your gear. Plus, there's zero underbody insulation to prevent cold butt. You end up spending triple the price replacing every garbage part. But the next trap hides behind a much louder number. Number 4. You see these generic listings everywhere, shouting about 210T nylon and a massive 500-pound capacity. It sounds technical, but 210T is just a basic thread count, and that 500-pound rating only applies to the fabric itself. The real danger is the cheap suspension they pack in the bag. They give you thin, tree-slicing cords and stamped, non-rated carabiners that will bend under a fraction of that weight because they lack any real climbing certification. It's polished marketing hiding a dangerous load path. You think you're buying a heavy-duty system, but you're actually trusting your spine to junk that fails long before the cloth does. Look for a clear 12 kilonewton stamp on the metal, because the fabric rating is useless when the hardware snaps. But the next trap sits right in the product name. Number 3. The double hammock myth. Brands love slapping the word double on the bag because space sells. But gathered end hammocks are structurally designed for exactly one adult lying on a diagonal. If you try to squeeze 2 grown adults in there, gravity forces you both into the tight center. You end up squashed back to back, fighting for air, and rolling into each other with every twitch. It is a miserable, claustrophobic night, and sharing that space massively spikes the dynamic load on a suspension system designed for one. This is the midpoint pattern where brands sell you a comforting label instead of an actual sleep system. A double simply gives a single sleeper extra fabric to lie flatter. It is useless for 2 people. But before we get to the real fixes, the next trap on our list leaves you freezing. Number 2 on our list is the backyard lounger wearing a trail sticker. Big box stores love slapping the word camping on these 9-foot short slings, but their geometry belongs between 2 manicured oaks, not on the trail. If you're taller than a toddler, a 9-foot hammock guarantees a miserable night. You can't get a clean diagonal lay, so you're forced into a banana shape that crushes your knees and arches your back. But the real torture starts when the sun goes down. Once the temperature dips below the mid-60s, that sleeping bag compressed under your body loses its loft and lets heat drain straight through the fabric. If you try to slide a sleeping pad in there to block the cold, the slick nylon makes it squirt out like a wet bar of soap, leaving your shoulders and rear totally exposed. You need an underquilt, but these cheap rigs make rigging one a nightmare. Next, we look at the famous brand people overpay for, just to get out of this misery. And finally, in first place is the brand everyone knows, ENO. Look, I will give them credit. The fabric holds up, and the stitching is great for backyard lounging. But as an actual camping system, they are a massive money trap. A double nest starts around $70. That sounds fine because you think you are ready to camp. But it does not even come with straps. Those run you another $40. By the time you buy a bug net and a tarp, plus a proper underquilt to prevent cold butt, you have spent $180 on a system built around a 9.5-foot hammock. That is too short for a flat diagonal lay, so you are still sleeping like a bent banana. You paid a premium name tax just to rebuild a short setup. The real heroes do not make you buy 5 separate pieces. They put the whole system in one box for less. Which hammock system has actually kept you warm? Check out our breakdown of the best cold weather underquilts to see how to survive a freezing night. This channel follows the specs, not the sponsors. Subscribe for more honest gear reviews. In second place, Grand Trunk flips the value math instead of leaning on a fancy logo to sell you short. Their Trunk Tech fabric gives you a full 11-foot hammock right out of the gate. That length is exactly what you need to get a flat diagonal lay, so your back does not arch and keep you groaning all night. The fabric holds up to 500 pounds, but the whole rig only weighs about 11 to 16 ounces, depending on which model you grab. The street price sits around $60 to $70, which is incredibly fair because they actually include rated aluminum carabiners that match the fabric capacity instead of making you upgrade. If you hate mosquitoes, their Skeeter Beater line builds the net right into the design. You get a real overnight sleep system up front without a massive stack of mandatory accessories. It is simply more hammock for less money. But our top pick goes even further because it solves your entire cold weather shelter problem in a single box. And finally, in first place, Hennessy wins because it starts as a complete wilderness shelter instead of a branded backyard lounger. Tom Hennessy began designing these systems back in the 1990s, so they actually solve the physical problems of sleeping outdoors. The asymmetric cut shifts fabric to your shoulder and knee sides, which lets you lie flat without carrying a massive 11-foot setup. Instead of forcing you to piece together a massive shopping list, you get a flat diagonal lay and an integrated bug net, plus the rainfly and tree-saving straps. It gives you upfront what ENO buyers have to assemble separately for double the price. Those tree saver straps are a full inch wide, so you meet those leave no trace guidelines right out of the box. Warbonnet's Blackbird sits right next to it as another gold standard option for hardcore backpackers because of its built-in footbox. But Hennessy wins because it remains the most complete shelter solution. Which hammock system has actually kept you warm? Check out our breakdown of the best cold weather underquilts to see how to survive a freezing night. This channel follows the specs, not the sponsors. Subscribe for more honest gear reviews. Across these entries, the pattern is clear. Cheap loungers dressed as camping gear always leave you cold and broke. Which gear trap did you fall for? Next, we are exposing budget sleeping pads. This channel follows the specs, not the sponsors. Subscribe to stay warm out there.